What's going on? What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Jimmy James here, and I just had a video I thought I'd put out. I have been thinking a bit. There's all of this rumors about a new DLC, a new expansion pack, and I've just been listening to some of the things that people have been saying, and I don't know, I just thought I'd get my thoughts out there on it. This is literally all baseless speculation, but I'm just thinking some of these things through, and hey, you know, it's kind of fun to predict and kind of see where things are going. And I'd be interested if you all have any thoughts or ideas on the matter of what the alleged new DLC is going to look like based on what we think we know about it. There's definitely some indication, right, that we've seen on Steam that it does look like something new has been added that has a code name, right? We'll talk about that in a second. But before I get into the video, if you like this video, you like, you know, what the kind of things we're doing, a lot of different things on the channel these days. The tier list, right? I love how much support we've gotten for the tier list. I love how much support there's been for the build orders, people leaving comments, things like that. And so that's one of the reasons why, again, kind of branching out, just put my thoughts out there on this. And you know, if this is the kind of thing that you'd like to see me do more often, just sharing some of my thoughts and ideas, and just, again, baseless speculation about what's going on and keeping the fires burning. That's what we're doing here on the channel, and we're going to try and bring all of us together along the way. So if you like what we're doing, go ahead, follow the channel, like the video, and hey, let me know. I love constructive feedback as well. So, you know, one of the things about all these rumors about the DLC, right, is that it seems like on the Steam website it has been received an upload recently that, you know, there's a new downloadable content, right, that's loaded, but it's kind of locked. I'm gonna throw it up here on the screen, right? And I think credit goes to Yeshua E11, who posted this up. I think he's the one, or she's the one, whoever it is the one who discovered it. And it's pretty interesting, right? So, you know, this is something that happened before the prior two expansions, Lord of the West, Dawn of the Dukes. And the interesting thing about them is that they actually had code names that were clues to what was going to be coming next. I think the code names were Palermo and Prague, respectively, hinting at Sicilians and Bohemians as civilizations. You know, there's probably something there. And Spirit of the Law actually has a really good video out, also doing something similar, speculating about what's going to happen in the new DLC. So, you know, I want to take this a little bit different direction than him, but there is some belief. Now, there's this question, like this Porto, right? If this is a clue, what does it mean? And there's a couple things, right? A lot of people think that this signals that something's going to happen with the Portuguese as a civ. You know, if you go on Wikipedia, you can take a look. There's a lot of Portos, a lot of places that have Porto in the name, right? One, Angola is a former Portuguese colony. We might see something like that, but I actually think that it would be really interesting to see some more of South America with Portugal. I mean, one of the things historically, you know, the Treaty of Tordesillas split the New World between Spain and Portugal, and you know, we only have 3 American civs, and 2 of them are in Mesoamerica, and really, the Incas are the only South American civilization that we have, and that's covering more of the Andean region, so much further west on the continent. Now, the Portuguese, right, if you look at the Treaty of Tordesillas, right, and where it was split off, right, you know, Portugal was, you know, able to go in and colonize more of the eastern portion of the continent, and that would be Brazil. And so the question is, what could be done there? And there actually is an interesting idea is that the Tupi peoples were a really important ethnic group in Brazil. And, although I don't think that anybody would have considered them an empire. I don't think anybody would consider, say, Sicily an empire, right? I mean, it's a small, it's a small island, basically. So, I mean, it's important in history, don't get me wrong, but I think that folks are sleeping on the Tupi here. I mean, they had their warriors, and, there were Tupi tribes that warred with one another, according to, what we seem to know of their history. And there's also allegations of cannibalism among the Tupi. And, it's possible that I think that they're generally accepted, but, as with all historical facts, I think there's some dispute. But given that it is, Tupi cannibalism is something that I think is accepted by most historians these days, that could make for a really, really wild civilization if we had something like that. And so, I don't know, I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Tupi. I think that it would be a really nice opportunity to maybe bring in another archer civilization of some kind, another eagle civilization. That would be really nice to see, and maybe there's something else that could be done with that civilization. I think that the thing about, and the reason I might not say that the Tupi could be as likely is the question that I think about is how to differentiate them from the other American civilizations, right? Because lacking stables means that there's just not a lot of unit diversity, and so that's something that could be really interesting. I mean, all of the American civs have arbalists. They all need arbalists, I think, since you don't have the stable. So I don't know. I think figuring out what the civilization's identity could be very difficult, but I think it could also be pretty fun. And, if nothing else, it really was an important people. And I don't know, since there's not much going on in South America in the game so far, it seems like a continent that could be really ripe for another civilization. I know there's been a lot of hunger, I think, for a North American civilization. It's a tricky issue because it doesn't seem like the North American civilizations would have maybe hit their sweet spot until later, like in an Age of Empires 3 time frame. The thing I do like about the idea of a North American civilization, if we're willing to expand the timeline out a little bit, is that it would be really interesting, say, if you had an American civilization, but that maybe also had access to the stable. And that would be a really unique identity for one of the American civs because none of them have it. And so, I mean, some people might argue that, well, that is one of the things about being an American civ is that you don't have it. But if you could somehow combine the Eagle Warrior somehow into a stable unit, like maybe they could have the Gelato Warrior, which everybody I know always wants to see. Everybody, when there's a possibility that an Aztec or I believe an Inca player, I forget which one of I think it's the Mayans that lack redemption, that lack the ability to convert buildings, right? But every time you see, right, every time you see the possibility for a Gelato Warrior, everybody gets so excited. It would be cool to see them somehow in the game, and so maybe that would be a thing that the Tupi could have, actually, and maybe bring that in. So that would be a really interesting identity, and I know I'd like to see something like that, and it's a unit that looks cool. We really don't get to see it in the game. I don't know. I think it'd be neat. So I doubt that we're going to see a North American Civ, but then again, I've been surprised before for sure. Porto also, I mean, I guess Porto also means port, so maybe we could get a nautical civ, right? That could be interesting. Or maybe just since the Portuguese are the worst civilization in terms of their win rate, maybe they're just going to get big changes or something. I don't know. Or maybe the name's just to throw us off. I mean, I think you could still really go into Africa, and there's a lot more that you could do with the civilizations there, and and that seems like it would be a really easy play. We've already had multiple European-centric DLCs, even though we have a DLC that's mostly introducing African civilizations. Why not just we can have another one? There's no reason you can't. So I will say one thing. Some people have talked about the idea of splitting up civilizations, say like the Indians or the Slavs. And I can see it. I get the complaints. It does kind of sound like a weird idea to me. But I could see it, given that like the Rus are a civilization in Age of Empires 4. And that is basically involving a lot of the same civs as Age 2. I could see that being done to parallel the two games, right? And that would make some sense to me. Now, one of the things that nobody's speculated about in terms of the new DLC is that maybe it's not the case that we get new civilizations, but maybe we get new technology or units, right? That would be interesting. I mean, because when the Definitive Edition came out, we actually did get new technologies like supplies. We got new units like the Steppe Lancer. And so I think that raises a question here is like, is there a new technology that could be added to the game? I'm not sure if this is really the case. The game is pretty balanced right now. So I feel like whatever you would add would need to be fairly marginal. Though the way they did it with the supplies, right, is that when the game came out, every civilization except for Goths had access to supplies because they're already getting this insane infantry discount. So basically what it seems like they did is they gave everybody supplies, kind of saw how it affected things, and then they took it away from some civilizations. And I could see something like that with a new technology, where you throw this new technology out there, just see how it plays with each civ, and then if it makes some civs a bit too overpowered, or maybe we think they shouldn't have it, because it gives them the ability to maybe go into a unit that they aren't really designed to, you take it away in a later patch. So I can see that happening. I think a new Imperial Age technology could be interesting, and that seems like probably a safer bet to introduce a new tech, because you wouldn't have to worry about it affecting the feudal balance or the Castle Age balance, and maybe it could add an interesting dynamic to late game fights where we could see a new technology having some play. I'll tell you a late game technology that really could be used as a draw button. After that 98-hour game between Andre and Rubenstock, shout out to those two guys. That was fantastic from both of them, I think. And I could see a draw button being added. I will say I actually dig games like that. I think games like that where it's really unusual and strange, and it's a difficult situation to figure out the win condition. I actually kind of like those games to watch. I'm not sure I would like playing in a game of that length, but I do get a kick out of watching it, I gotta say. And I don't think a draw button would even prevent those kind of scenarios from happening, because if two guys both believe they could win, and I watched both of their streams a little bit. I know one of the things that at least I remember Andre talking about is saying he really thought he had a win condition, and a draw button really doesn't disrupt that, because if two guys both believe they can win, like, one of them can just not accept the draw. But if two guys wanted to bounce and maybe not lose any elo, right, you could draw. So it just kind of gives it an option. And I think it would add a fun dimension to the strategic landscape as well. Because, I mean, like, I would feel differently if everybody was already, like, sort of playing to the last man and that kind of thing. But nobody does. And anybody who does is, usually kind of wasting like 15 to 20 minutes of your time as you're trying to hunt down that last villager on the map, and you could have gotten another game in on the ladder, and they're already defeated. So we're not playing to the last man. Most games end with a resignation as opposed to being fully defeated, and so I think that this would just add kind of a new fun dimension. A lot of times I'm playing a game and somebody sometimes will ask me how many villagers I have, because they're trying to kind of guess if they should GG or not. And I think that if you had a draw button, right, that's something actually you could sort of try to play for. Is you could try to convince your opponent maybe to take a draw and bluff or something like that. So you might tell an opponent that you had more villagers or something than you did because you want them to offer you a draw to get out of a stalemate. I don't know. Like, there's the sort of, there's the strategy in the game, and then there's the strategy of the game, and that could be really interesting, I think. But who knows? I mean, it seems like it'd be easy to add, and games like chess have it, so I don't see why Age of Empires couldn't have it. I don't know. I mean, I think that I will say the other thing too is I think that water is sometimes gets a little stale. I mean, I think that the balance is really nice because there's a nice counter triangle of, galleys kind of counter demolition ships because you can snipe them before they get to you, and then the demolition ships counter fire ships, and the fire ships counter galleys, and so we have this nautical triangle here that I think really works. But maybe a technology that could kind of help separate the middle of the pack civs from one another, because it kind of feels like the best water civilizations are all kind of clustered at the top, and then after that it's really just a question of whether you have bracer or not. And I don't know, it would be nice to see. Plus, some of these these islands fights, they just last so long. It'd kind of be nice if there was some kind of Imperial Age technology that maybe helped break up some stalemates, I'd like to say. So, I don't know. I mean, I think in general, if you're going to add a new technology or a new unit, I think you want it to be something that happens in the late game, just because the game is really well balanced. And that's a big credit to the developers, I think. And so it would be a good idea, I think, to see that. The other thing in this DLC that there's obviously going to be some balance changes. The last update patch that we got, you can check out my video here on the channel about that. I think it's one of the few videos that details the patch on YouTube. And one of the reasons it's one of the few videos is that there's not a ton of balance changes. There were some interesting changes to the maps, but in terms of the balance changes, we didn't get a lot of those, and it just makes you sort of speculate that maybe they're waiting until the DLC. And there's definitely some balance changes that could be made. I think the Step Lancer is, I mean, I was actually on Reddit with some people talking about the Step Lancers, and although I don't think we solved the world's problems, we kicked around a few ideas. I might actually do a video on that, because the Step Lancer is an oft discussed unit, and it would be interesting to think about some ways in which maybe they could fix that. I think that there's some civilizations that probably do need a balance change. I mean, I did mention Portuguese. I think Portuguese are actually a really good civ. I just don't think that they are often played correctly. I don't mind them the way they are. I think that maybe what you could do is give them some kind of an earlier game bonus, perhaps, to let them do a little bit of damage early on. But you know what? I mean, I don't know. I kind of like them the way they are. I think that the identity of the Civ is that it has cheap military units. So maybe if there was something you could do with that, but you're already, I mean, you can make 3 militia with the Portuguese without having to mine, get that 10 stone. You can do it on your starting, sorry, not stone, on your gold. You can do it on your starting gold. That's pretty sweet, actually. So I don't know. I think they could get, the thing with Portuguese is they have the worst win rate in the game. And so I could see that. I could see the developers looking at that and thinking, well, this is sort of the last civ that we really need to balance. I think Indians need something. I know that they have a really good win rate, but I don't know. I feel like it's a really awkward civilization to play. And so I just think that they need something. I was thinking actually that there was a time way back in the update patches where Indians actually used to have Arbalest. Right? Not a lot of people might know that, but they did used to have Arbalest. And the thing about Indians back then is they missed the last armor upgrade. And so they lost Arbalest, but they got the last armor upgrade. I would honestly like to see Arbalest come back with Indians. I'd be a fan of that, just because, look, you already lack knights entirely, and you are stuck with crossbows. I mean, that just seems like a bit much to me. And if you think about a similar civilization like Saracens, I mean, Saracens get 170 HP heavy camels, right? They have more HP even than an Imperial camel, actually. And they gotta pay for the upgrade. You know, I mean, Saracens have to pay for a technology of the castle, but still, like, Imperial camels insanely expensive to get to their 160 HP camels. And Saracens get Arbalest, and they get fully upgraded heavy cav archers. You know, they get fully upgraded elite skirmishers. So, I don't know. Like, I just think that, you know, and you can go knights with Saracens in Castle Age. And believe me, if you've ever played an Empire Wars game against Saracens, market abuse into Saracen knights is a killer. So, you know what? Like, why can't the Indians have Arbalest? And that would give them a nice option that they could go into. I think the elephant archer is kind of weird. I've mentioned before, I think it would be cool if the unit cost 3 different resources, and that would make it be expensive, but in a way that was different than all of the civilizations. I think that'd be interesting to see. I don't know if it would work, but I just think it'd be interesting. And, you know, I mean, you know, the funny thing about playing against Indians is I feel like I rarely ever see camels with Indians in any sort of abundance. Like, even when I'm playing cavalry, I feel like I almost always see heavy cavalry archers. I don't know if you guys if anybody out there is watching this and that's what you're seeing, drop something in the comment section. I know it felt like to me that in King of the Desert 4 that we saw a lot of Indian heavy cav archers. And I mean, that was interesting. I don't know. I mean, I actually wasn't against Indian camels in Imperial Age having 5 pierce armor. I thought that was fine, because it's still not anywhere near as good as having 6 or 7. I would actually kind of like to see the Imperial camel get an extra pierce armor, so that way you have a lot more incentive to research Imperial camel. And I still think, you know, you get 5 pierce armor versus, say, like 7 of a paladin. Thinking about team games here, I don't know. You're taking a lot more archer fire, so it seems like it could make some sense to me. But yeah, I just feel like I so rarely run into camels when I play against Indians, and I don't know. I could see them getting either a bonus to their heavy cavalry archer would be fine, or just having access to Arbalest, so you could think about that as something of a long-term composition. I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I actually think Turk camels could use a buff. I just feel like with Turks, you're so reliant on them. And I think Turks have a really, really interesting identity where their gold units have more survivability. So if we think about Sipahi affecting heavy cav archers, or the bonus of their gunpowder units, get, I think, like 25% HP. The gunpowder units get a pretty good, healthy chunk of HP. So I think it'd be interesting for camels to have some kind of, for Turk camels to have some kind of attack bonus. Like maybe they attack faster. And that would make them different than other camels. And I don't think camels are a very uber dominant unit in Castle Age anyways. And if you're Turks, like if you're up against cavalry, you're so reliant on them because you don't even get pikemen. And so I feel like camels should have a lot more value for the Turks. And I don't know, that would be an interesting way to do it. Give them some kind of attack bonus or something. What else was I thinking about? I was thinking too about, there's this question that people have asked whether the Hun should get step lancers, actually. I don't know about that. I mean, I think that, to me, it's kind of a who cares. Step lancers are kind of pointless anyways, so. Yeah. I mean, there's other things like Incas needing a new team bonus. Because their team bonus is, like, pretty sucks. I think Incas are a good civ, though. I don't think they're underpowered. I kind of like to change the atheism tech on Huns. I mean, I like it. I just think it's a bit too costly. I mean, the Huns are in a good spot anyways, so it's not so bad. Oh, you know what I really, really hate? I really hate Celt strongholds. I think it blows. I think that I don't think that, I've never seen it researched or used, and it just seems kind of pointless. And it's always bothered me, just from a historical sense, that Celt light cavalry were just like hot garbage, because Celtic light cavalry was like really important in the time frame of the game. I think the whole idea of the Irish hobby horse and the hobelars, like Celtic light cavalry was really important, and I've always thought that maybe this is why they do get access to things like the Hussar and Paladin, but it was light cavalry historically. So if I could replace strongholds, I'd give them some light cavalry bonus. And because they already have awful skirmishers, it's not like they would suddenly become a great trash war Civ if that were the case. I mean, I honestly think it would be cool if they had a bonus damage versus archers, because that would fit this like fighting against the Britons theme. But the Burmese already have that, and I think Burmese need that for their hussars because they're so weak to archers. So I don't know. I don't think that's the solution maybe for the Celts. I mean, you could give them maybe something specific to foot archers. I don't know. That's tricky. That's really tricky. I mean, it's not unheard of, because I mean, basically the Teutons and the Poles and the Lithuanians and the Poles, who are were part of the same Commonwealth, they both have this identity with units that somehow like have to do with armor, right? So it kind of counters the Teutons directly, right? And so I think having something that like counters the Britons would actually be kind of a sweet thing for the Celts. But I don't know. Anyways, I'm just musing about thoughts about the DLC. I don't know anything. I know as much as you, and probably a lot less. So I think with that, I'm just gonna go ahead and end the video. If you enjoyed listening to my wild musings and some sweet lo-fi neo-soul tracks in the background, smash that like button, leave a comment in the comment section saying that you like it, and I'll try and do more stuff like this. And man, the channel, we're just gonna keep on keeping on, dudes. We're just gonna keep on with it, keep trying to grow here. So throw us that subscription so we can keep doing our part on this channel, try and keep this game alive and bring it to as many people as we can. So with that, I'll say peace. And hey, I'll see you out there on the ladder with this random map or Empire Wars, baby. I'm there. Team games as well. So all right, we'll check you guys out. Peace.